song is usually listed as the old man's winter thought, which was a title that Burns gave it when he sent it to his second publisher, George Thompson. But it was earlier submitted to the Scots Musical Museum, and we have that manuscript, which did not have a title, but in another hand was written over it, The Old Man. But it's titled The Winter of Life in Scots Musical Museum. Well, given that information, a very few years ago, I would have said, oh, they made up a title. But they were not really given to making up titles. They would usually take the first line if Burns hadn't provided one. Burns would make, we only have one copy of his list submissions, and that was to the third volume. And sometimes he did have titles in there that were different from what was published elsewhere. For example, a song which he had referred to, The Gloomy Night is Gathering Fast, was listed there as The Bonny Banks of Ayr, which might be a better title. So did Burns list this as the winter of life? Well, it's interesting when you go back through these scholarly books that some of them, a lot of the information is kind of aggregated, picked up, moved forward, but some of it's left behind. And there's some really interesting information in 1896 in Henley and Henderson's Centenary Burns edition, because they found something called The Winter of Life in the Goldfinch, Edinburgh, 1777. Burns liked to go through these old magazines and find anonymous poems and turn them into songs. There are other examples of this. Here's that poem. In spring, my dear shepherds, your gardens are gay. They breathed all their sweets in the sunshine of May. Their flowers will drop when December draws near. The winter of life is like that of the year. The season for love is when youth's in its prime. Ye lads and ye lasses, make use of your time. The frost of old age will too quickly appear. The winter of life is like that of the year. So Burns seems to be taking his scene, and yet he does something entirely different with it. So the first verse is understandable in English. On winter blasts the wa, on winter blasts away. But the second verse gets into some Scots, so I'll go over that. That is, but my white pow, P-O-W, that's my head. Like we have poll tax, and pow is a word for head. My white pow, nay kindly thowe, no kindly thaw, shall melt the snaws of age, the snows of age. My trunk of eild, my trunk of old, but bus or bield, without bush or shelter, sinks in time's wintry rage. So, in this song, Burns is saying, why is the earth, the seasons renew, but my life is not going to. Burns was about 35 when he wrote this. He was already old. He was gone at 37. But lately seen in gladsome green, the woods rejoiced the day. Through gentle showers, the laughing flowers in double pride were gay. But now our joys have fled, on winter blasts awa', yet maiden May and rich array again shall bring them more. But my white pow, nay kindly thaw, shall melt the snaws of age. My trunk of eild, but bus or bield, sinks in time's wintry rage. O age has wearied age, and nights a sleepless pain. Thou golden time, O youthful prime, why comes thou not again? More to say about this. Excuse me. The tune, which Burns called East Indian Air. He wrote to Thompson, his second publisher, 19 October 1794. I enclose to you a musical curiosity, an East Indian air, which you would swear was a Scottish one. I know the authenticity of it, as the gentleman who brought it over is a particular acquaintance of mine. I'm not sure whose leg was being pulled there. It may well have been Burns's. Its source seems to be Irish. It's a variant of the charming Fair Eile found in Edward Bunting's General Collection of the Ancient Music of Ireland, Volume 2, page 1 of the Airs, in 6/8 time. Burns's variant with its shifting time signatures is taken from Scots Musical Museum, Volume 5, so it was published after his death. It's number 486 in the Scots Musical Museum. Yeah. So what's the title? It's popularly known as the Old Man's Winter Thought. The more years I spend studying this stuff, the Old Man's Winter Thought. That's a description. George Thompson was a bit of a dunderhead, so maybe he thought it needed explaining to him. There's so many contextual issues, but I think The Winter of Life is the better title, and since it was the title with which this version of the lyric was printed, I'm going to commit to The Winter of Life. You may argue with me. I'm not arguing. In the comments section. That is a unique and beautiful song. From Robert Burns. Yeah, he was writing to Mrs. Dunlop how he was starting already to stiffen up. He was struggling with his health. Heartbreaking to read about. So, Burns is probably older at 35, 36 than I am at, how old am I? 67 at the moment. Yep. Please subscribe to my channel. Got a playlist, Songs of Burns. I've been working on a Burns songbook for 10 years. And it's become necessary to me to learn each song, to post them here for ear musicians who can't read the musical scores. And to take another look at all these questions, including, in this case, the titling. I've got to stop looking at the aggregate agreements of Burns's editors and get back to his intent in every way possible. Be well.